I don't like delving too deep into politics, but I always find it quite curious when people don't learn their lessons. Now, many of us have seen the issue with Donald Trump at the moment, but I can't help but think about his previous term as president, the corruption, the scandals, the crazy decisions he made that often crossed the line legally. And while you have the protection of being president, where it's very rare for someone to be sort of taken to court. But yeah, he sets new precedents all the time. So when he left his presidency, all of a sudden there was a lot of legal accusations against him, and he had to pay the price for that. Now, if you actually look, now I don't like delving too deep into politics, but I do remember recently, not that far away, a year or so ago, he was having to fight legal battles, and he actually didn't have the money. He acts like he's rich, he's wealthy, he's got all this money, but he was struggling to raise the funds to fight a legal battle. I don't know if it was federal or what it was, but it was quite serious situations. And he was looking for funding. I think at the time Musk funded him a little bit. He had other donors, but it does lead the question: were those incentives for him to then run for presidency after, and then those people would get opportunities once he's in the door? And it looks to me that's what's happened here. The corruption always you stem it further enough back, you start to see it. But the part that I find remarkable is that, okay, on one hand, maybe he got away with it last time. Very close, very close. But if you double down, he's gonna find himself, if he's alive still. I mean, he's old. That's the thing people don't realise is everyone thinks they're invincible. He's old. A stress of any position, a job, like any stresses in your life can contribute to health related issues. So if you've got all that stress on you, he can act like on the camera. He can act confident. He can act like he don't care, and all these things. In private, the stress may compound. So anything can happen. 4 years is a long way away when you're that age. But even if he survives the 4 years of presidency, he's still going to be held accountable for everything he does now. It's quite obvious, though, that from my point of view, when I look in, when you look at what he's doing, he's trying to replace people within government in very high-ranking positions as well, but those with influence. He's swapping for people who do toe the line and will support him. And maybe the point is that when his term comes to an end, obviously it makes it easier in the current for him to push things through, but maybe he's thinking after all is said and done that he will be protected from any repercussions in the future. I'm more curious about what happens after his term comes to an end than what he does now, because right now it's like a wrecking ball. But you can only wreck something for so long without repercussions before there's a repercussion. And that's the part that I'm really intrigued by, like the downfall of those around him as well, because they all think they're invincible. You've got Musk like acting like he got free reign to do everything because of his wealth, and then we're starting to see reports of all the Tesla sales declining. And from my understanding, a lot of his wealth is in shares. So it's less about his actual wealth. If you actually look at tangible money, a lot of it is inflated by the fact that he has ownership or shares in companies and things. But how much is he really worth? If a company depletes and diminishes, let's say Tesla went out of business, how much has he got now? And I think probably very little. So that's interesting. But yeah, I'm really interested how the chaos that ensues now and how much they're held accountable, because I think that's really where it's going to be serious. He seems to be getting challenged already. He's only early into his presidency, but he seems to be getting challenged by, I think, is it federal courts and governors and states and all sorts. And, I don't know the laws, the ins and outs, but it does seem a bit crazy. I personally think the idea of a presidency is a bit outdated now. I don't think it works, like, from my opinion. I think it should be, you can't have someone at the top and they wield that much power. That's outrageous. It should be, by like, a bit like the Prime Minister in the UK, you have to go through the House of Commons, and then there has to be a vote, and you have to get numbers. I don't know if that's similar with the Congress and Senate, and I don't know the levels with Congress and Senate and all this shit. But from what it looks like a president has way too much power, though, that supersedes some of that, and that's where it's like, wait a minute, you can't have one man have this power. That's too much power for an individual. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way that is right because you can literally have a great leader, and that'd be great, but you can't always expect to have a great leader. And when one is unhinged and seemingly uneducated, it's a scary place to be to allow that power into one person's hand. They literally can try to destroy everything that's built, um, and change the systems that implement and sustain the rule and the governance. I just think it's mental. Like how one person can have that much power in any walk of life is crazy. You can have power over ourselves and our own dominion, of course, but when you have power influence over people, I think that's a scary place to be. Um, yeah, it just reminds me of a king, and I've never liked the idea of a king. I could talk about it a lot, like the England in the medieval times and things, how corrupt that was. Um, you look at it; it's like you've got whole kingdoms of people who are impoverished. There's famine, there's destitution, and they have to find the money for taxation and things. It's like now it's wild to me. And then you've got a king that lives lavish amongst these, but like stands lords above their people, not really caring about their people. Does it not seem similar? That's going on now back in the medieval times here. But like I said, eventually they will be held accountable. And maybe they will have pockets of people where they influence and they've put them in there. Doesn't mean they stay loyal. Loyalty tends to, a lot of the time, I say this a lot, loyalty extends to where people benefit. That's a lot of time, that's where the loyalty extends. So in the present moment, there may be loyalists to Donald Trump. When Donald Trump no longer has the power influence, and now he seeks protection from people, you may find that people are self-serving and they will defect. That could happen. You say all the right things to him to get a position, that'll happen, won't it? Of course people will. If there's an opportunity for progression and they're not really got a lot of moral, they've got no moral compass and all they care about is themselves, they'll tell Trump all they wants to hear to make him seem like he's likable just to get the opportunity. There's nothing to say that people will be loyal to him after the fact. So and it only takes one person to betray him, to reveal secrets or anything like that. Those sort of corrupt things, they always have their meltdown, and I can see that happening. Like I say, he may be implementing situations where people will support him after the fact, but I'm not sure that'll be the case. And it's how many people get brought down. At the moment we see the face of it all is Trump and Musk, but there's obviously going to be other people who are serving in this, who have just as much influence and are just as destabilizing. And I'm sure they'll get held accountable. So I'm intrigued watching things unravel already. But like I said, I'm really intrigued about what comes next. So what happens after? Because I'm sure things will be implemented to stop. I've said it before. I see Trump as someone who churns up a lot of chaos, and it's not always negative. It's not always negative. Like, he's negative, and he may mean bad. He might not have the best of intentions, but sometimes through that churning, it creates change that is sustainable and it's much needed. Because I said that before, like you could have gone away from Trump and gone a different direction, and there's no growth anyway because it's all still repeating the same corruption, just in a different image, But there's still corruption. Corruption's corruption. Maybe him doing this will bring to light other situations, and because I think it was the Senate. I think it might be Senate or Congress. I can't remember, but there's one person that apparently has been serving for like 60 years. That doesn't make sense. Surely it should be voting system. It should be there should be maximum terms and stuff. Because otherwise, if there's corruption and someone is corrupted, and let's say it went that long, the corruption is filtered through the whole of the system, and that's dangerous. So maybe at some point things will change where sort of systems and infrastructure will get addressed, and there'll be like a what do you call it? Oh, I can't remember the word now. Anyway, where you just check it all over and you decide whether something's sustainable anymore. And then maybe there'll be new rules implemented with things like that, maximum terms, how long someone can, the voting system. And I think personally, the money shouldn't influence politics. There shouldn't be this money where you get this influx. That should definitely be stamped out. There should not be any external money coming into the system because that's too much. You get this donation and stuff, and you obviously know it's a sponsor. So there definitely is someone being influenced. So then when the decisions get made and there's a vote, it's like, oh, who paid this person? Oh, you've received that money. Oh, it's unrelated to this. Do they really think people are stupid? But it's almost like it's a given. They're all corrupt. So the whole thing's corrupt. You can't have that. Politicians are there to serve the people. You effectively are the voice of the people, which means you represent the people. You don't represent a stakeholder that has a lot of money who's influencing your decisions. That's just corrupt. So I think there should be governance and rules that stop that shit. And that's literally a legal offence. In America, you'd say federal, I guess. I don't know, but it's an offence to take a bribe. to take money. It's got to be. That's the fundamentals. And then it's a case of, right, you're not going to make millions in this position, but is this a position you still want? Because you should feel proud to represent your country, and be the voice of the people. And it shouldn't come with these massive salaries. Yeah, you should be rewarded for it, but not to these inflated things where people invest in maybe giving you millions as handouts to try and to subvert a vote. That's outrageous. So it should be a case you swear an oath to never receive money from an external third party for influence or anything, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you do, you're held accountable to it, and then you before the court, and then you potentially go to jail for it because you literally have betrayed the people. You fraudulently represented the voice of the people, and that you should be held accountable for that. And then it should be that politics is clean. That's the only way. If you do not have clean politics, you'll never have a healthy country. But if you've got people actually standing up representing you and having actual conversations and debates for the benefit of the people, you'll find the country will be healthy and it'll thrive and it'll elevate. But that's the only way it happens. It's the only way it happens. But who's got the balls to do it? That's the biggest question, isn't it? Because money talks. But we're going to see, hopefully, potentially see, that even those with the biggest bank balances can have a big fall. And it'd be interesting if Musk crosses a line, which I suppose he already has by the things I've seen, the things that have come to light, whether it's true or not, though. Not for me to judge. But one day, maybe he will be held accountable and he will face a sentence. And it'll show that even the wealthiest person cannot escape or the perceived wealthiest person. I'm sure there's people in shadows that have an inordinate amount of wealth and they're the real puppet masters, but let's not go there. But something has to happen here where people are held accountable. And it's going to be interesting, I think, over the next 4 years of what happens. Like what genuinely happens, because I think there's going to be a lot comes to light. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump doesn't see it through the whole term, in all honesty. And then it'll be interesting what comes to light if anything like that happens. So, American politics is really of interest right now because it has a huge influence around the world. It's like I pulled Trump up on it recently, a video where he said about relocating the Palestinians to make sort of a US, almost like a US state in Israel. That's really what he was saying with his